Hey everybody, what's going on? It was another busy week for the Montreal Canadiens and there's plenty to dive into in this video. But before we do that, let's talk about today's sponsor, which is the BetStamp app. You're going to want to download this application right now and use my referral code COOK, C-O-O-K. Put that into the referral section of this app and it'll greatly help me out. But moving forward to the perks of this application, if you're in the sports betting industry, you're going to want to use this application because it gives you a distinguished edge in the sports betting marketplace. Looking towards tonight's game between the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders, the Hurricanes are actually a sizable favorite in this matchup. And if you're line shopping like you can using the BetStamp app, you're going to see that the lowest possible price and best price for the Carolina Hurricanes is minus 182 on the Betway Sportsbook. But if you're just playing on different sportsbooks, you'll actually see that on the CoolBet Sportsbook, they're listed at minus 208, and that's a big discrepancy between those two prices, meaning you're going to want to obviously side with the Betway odds of minus 182. There's a lot of positives right now surrounding the Montreal Canadiens, and that might be difficult to believe with their 4-4 overall record. But looking at what they did last night against the Buffalo Sabres in their victory, there was just a lot of things that you're wanting to see from a young team like the Montreal Canadiens right now. And I think they're showing signs of just continuing to develop. And Martin St. Louis is proving to be the perfect coach for this development year for this Habs roster. I think that a lot of what he's doing right now is really honestly genius, and it takes a lot to just kind of dive into what he's doing as a head coach, considering some of the options the Montreal Canadiens have rolled out over the last half decade. And it just really, it's kind of refreshing, to be quite honest, with what St. Louis is doing with the young defensive core along with some of the forwards up front. You're seeing a different version of some of these players, whether it's Cole Caulfield up front, whether it's Jordan Harris and Caden Gooley on the back end. Of course, there's been some growing pains for all of these young players in this early season, but there's just so much to like about where they're developing and what the progression they're taking right now is, that you just have to be in a positive manner around this Montreal Canadiens team right now for a lot of reasons. But just how they're handling these minutes right now, if you look at Jordan Harris and Caden Gooley on the back end, you're just seeing a ton of minutes right now for these two young defenders. They're playing upwards of 22 minutes per night, and they're not really looking out of place in doing so, especially Gooley, who just continues to impress. He just continues to get more and more minutes, and he just doesn't really look fazed by any of this in his rookie season as a 21-year-old, and that's honestly quite impressive. He put his first NHL goal in the back of the net last night with a great release on a feed from David Savard. And there's just a lot of, I think, untapped offensive potential from him in terms of his goal scoring. I'm not sure he's ever going to be a playmaking defenseman in terms of just moving the puck. He can do a smart first pass, and that's very important in the National Hockey League today. But I don't know that he's ever going to officially quarterback a power play. But one thing is for sure, he definitely deserves to at least get that opportunity right now because of what we're seeing from him on the point. He has a bomb of a shot and one that seems to be able to get through from the point, and that's something that Chris Weidman hasn't really been able to contribute early on, meaning I think that some of the young defensemen need to get that opportunity on the power play right now, whether it's Gooley, whether it's Harris, whether it's Arbor Jacki, who really also does a good job of getting pucks through. I just think there needs to be a change in how this team is structuring their power play right now. I know they started last night's game with a 5-forward first unit, and I don't think that's sustainable, but I do like the outside the box thinking for Martin St. Louis there in terms of what he was doing with that unit. In saying that, I think there's room to develop on the power play. You're going to want to see more minutes from the likes of Kirby Dach, Cole Caulfield, and those type of players. And I do believe that there's a place in this roster for all of those type of talents. And I think the Montreal Canadiens are going to continue developing them and putting them in a good place to succeed, which just isn't something we've been able to say in prior seasons. In all likelihood, the Montreal Canadiens aren't going to win a ton of hockey games right now, but the most encouraging sign with how young this roster is right now is that they're staying competitive in these hockey games, even if they lose them, and that's a really good sign for where this team is headed. You don't want them to lose 7 or 8 games in a row and just lose that mentality around the rink, making it not a great place to be. Even though there's not a lot of expectations surrounding this team this year, there still is that expectation when you go to the rink that they compete and be a competitive hockey team, and that's exactly what they're doing, even as one of the younger rosters in the NHL. I just think that that's a very positive sign in terms of what Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon are trying to build, and you really couldn't say that last year, even in such a dismal season. There just seems to be a new breath of fresh air around this team, and I think Martin St. Louis has a lot to do with that, and just the forward thinking of Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes as well in the management staff. So I think the Montreal Canadiens are in great hands right now, and you're continuing to see that with how some of these players are performing early on this season. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on how the last week unraveled for the Montreal Canadiens and what you're looking to see from this team moving forward. And if you haven't already, download the BetStamp Sports app and use my referral code COOK, C-O-O-K, with that application. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.